Back when I used to drink and drive, I used to go bar hopping. Yeah, I know. I don't do it anymore. It was wrong, I know. So don't beat me with a stick. But I used to go bar hopping from bar to bar to bar, and you'd have a few drinks at every bar and then continue on to the next. And you would do this until you couldn't drive anymore or ended up in jail. Well, I'd made it to one bar and my bladder was full. I mean, I didn't think I was going to make it inside to empty my bladder. So it's starting to get dark and I'm in the parking lot and I'm looking around and there's nobody around. So I have the car door open and I figure I'm just going to relieve myself right here on the ground. Oh, so I'm standing there and I'm just about done and I hear somebody coming. So being drunk and not thinking right, I just slammed the car door. Well, I slammed a big fella right in the car door. And it hurt. And I'm stuck. I can't move. And I look down and the car door is locked. And the keys are in the ignition. And I am really stuck. I can't go anywhere. And I'm letting out a blood-curdling scream. Well, the two women that were walking this way, they heard me and they came running to see what was wrong. They says, "Are you all right?" And I says, oh yeah, everything's fine. They says, "Are you having a heart attack?" I says, no, it's nothing like that. Well, I could see across the car to the other door and I could see it was unlocked. I says, "I need one of you to do a favor for me." I says, "Can you crawl across and unlock my car door?" And one of them says, "Well, why can't you do it?" I said, "Well, I says, I'm trapped. I slammed the love monster in the door." And of course, they had a big chuckle and made me feel quite stupid. But hey, you ever done something like this? Oh, you have? Okay, I'm not the only dummy in the room then. Okay. So they took pity on me and one of them crawled across and opened the door and set me free. And then you should have seen the big fella swell up then. And I mean swelling not in a good way. It was kind of a bad swelling, like black and blue swelling. Well, luckily one of the women was a nurse. So she says, "Let me take a look." So she come over and she started checking out the big fella. And she held it with two hands. It took two hands to hold it. Okay, you're going to have to explain it to her. Okay. And she says, "You know, this could be a problem." She says, "Maybe you should go to the hospital and have this checked out." So I decided maybe she was right. So I drove myself to the hospital. Yeah, I know. I drove to the hospital and I walked in and there's this old gal sitting at the reception desk. She says, "Can I help you?" And I said, "Well," I says, I got a problem." She says, "Well, what is it?" I said, "Well," I says, it's kind of personal." She says, "I need to know what your problem is so I can decide if you need to be seen right away or if it can wait." So I whispered to her, I says, "I slammed my dick in the car door." And she says, "You slammed your dick in the car door?" She said it loud enough so everybody heard. And everybody got a good chuckle. You know, this is really going bad for me. I should have stayed home that night. Well, she finally gave me a clipboard. She says, "Go sit down and fill us out and we'll call you when we're ready." So I walk over and there's an empty seat between these two guys. And one guy is sitting there with a bag of ice on his crotch. And the other guy is sitting like he doesn't really want to sit down, but he's kind of propped up on just one cheek, like maybe he's a little sore on the bottom. So I think this is great. I'm sitting with the rest of the dummies. So I sit down and start filling out the paperwork. And the guy next to me that's kind of propped up on one side, he says, "You know, I heard what happened." He says, "Don't really be too embarrassed." He says, "You know, these things happen." He says, "Take me, for example. I was at home taking a shower, and I slipped and fell, and a billiard cue ball slipped up my rectum.